Hi, and welcome to Coffee Club. My name is Abby Smith. I'm running for mayor of Kokomo, and this is a weekly video series where I answer a personal question and a policy question, and we have coffee. So this week we've got a question about who's your campaign chair for the personal question, and then the policy is about unions and my general philosophy about them and how I work with them. So the personal question about my campaign chair, what's one of the first questions you have to answer when you run for local office is who will be your campaign chair and treasurer. Qualifications for treasurer are pretty obvious. They have to be conscientious and good with numbers, etc. And I have a wonderful one. But the campaign chair position is a little bit more complicated. So do they have to know how to run a campaign? Do they have to know a lot about local politics? What kind of qualifications does a person need, and who do I need to look for? What it all boiled down to was that I need a person who believes in me. And so for me, the answer was obvious. So I asked Lewis Hall to be my campaign chair and was lucky enough that he said yes. So we met about 7 years ago. He's a volunteer for United Way, and he became a volunteer that asked, the tough questions. What does success on this committee look like? What does failure look like? So he was one of my favorites, though of course all the volunteers are my favorite. But then Lewis and I actually found ourselves in the same classroom at the first day of school at Sycamore Elementary because my daughter Matilda and his granddaughter are in the same class, and so they have gone to school together ever since that first day, and so our families became very close, and the rest is history. But if you know anything about the Hall family, they take you in, and you are never to be separated again. So it's been wonderful to be a part of that family and to watch the two families bond. So, but Lewis is a very special person. I remember one time that I will just seared into my memory, I will never forget. We were dealing with a community issue, and he asked the question, now that we know this, if we do nothing, who are we? And it hit me and everyone else in the room like a ton of bricks. So it's been a question that has sat with me for since then, right? Just if we know things are going on in our community and we do nothing, then who are we? So I know Lewis to be steadfast and kind and wise, and always there to support anyone who asks for his support, and so I'm very grateful that he's serving as the campaign chair. So moving from that, the question for policy this week is about unions. So I have a family legacy in unions. My uncle Don Burgett was an active member of the United Steelworkers, and he worked for Perfect Circle, and then which became Dana. And he was a local officer in Steelworkers, and then he got an international appointment with the Steelworkers of America. And he believed in dignity and justice and respect for working families. And I always knew that. Of course, he's my uncle, so we had a family relationship where we talked about more than business. But he was a kind person who had a fire in his gut for fighting for people, fighting for safe places to work, and being able to come home to your family and being able to provide for them. So it was an important lesson that he taught me, and I am happy to continue that family legacy of fighting for working families. I think that unions have certainly changed since the time of my Uncle Don, or even since they formed. The circumstances that they operate in have changed, but that doesn't mean that they're not relevant or still absolutely vital to a healthy economy. So it's important to know that unions fight for all workers, not just union members. So every working family out there, they're fighting for their rights. They fight for fair wages, safe workplaces, parental leave, and they fight for accommodations for nursing moms who come back to work. So certainly that's a great example of something that unions weren't working on in the early days, but it's important to have a union structure in place so that when new issues arise, they can fight for that. And then of course, FMLA laws making sure that if you have a family emergency or a medical issue yourself, that your job is there when you and your family get through that. And that's only the safety and kind of precautions that they're working on, right? We haven't even gotten into their ability to train and their track record of training. So they have been an awesome partner for families and for workers for a very long time, making sure that they've got programs in place for job training and for registered apprenticeships, and just making sure that people have the skills and the tools that they need to do the job. So I think that what I hear from employers consistently is that they're looking for a qualified workforce, and it seems to me there is no greater partner than unions who know how to train and deliver on that need. So that kind of it makes you think about what is a partner, and to me, a partnership has three qualities. It's listening and respect, and then keeping your word. So that's where Lewis comes back in, and he really is the epitome of that. He is actually a member of UAW 292. He's a retiree, and everyone that I talked to about Lewis who worked with him, whether they're management or members of the union, respect him and know that he listened and respected partners at the table, and he kept his word. So you listen to understand, because more often we agree on more than we realize. You respect all parties at the table. So it is absolutely and should be a right for workers to organize, because organizing is about accountability, both holding yourself accountable and holding others accountable. So anyone who would deny the right for workers to organize, to me, is a person who doesn't want to be held accountable. And then the last part, keeping your word. Once you have a contract in place, once you have an agreement in place, just stick to it. So I have a fun story on this one. I have a friend who I met. She's in management, and she came up with, her name's Kirsten, she came up with the GPP, the Grievance Prevention Plan. And so she was telling me the story, saying that everyone was fascinated. What do you do? What is this GPP? Can you tell me about it? And she said, oh, it's very simple. I read the contract, and then I followed it. So to me, that's just a simple lesson in trust the process. And if everyone at the table is listening for understanding, respects all parties, and is willing to hold themselves and others accountable, then union partnerships with management, whether it's a private company or a government entity or a nonprofit, that partnership can work well and should work well. So at the end of the day, again, it comes down to accountability and integrity. Are you willing to do the right thing? So that really kind of epitomizes Lewis. Lewis, thank you so much for serving as my campaign chair. Thank you to you and your family for your constant support. If you don't know Lewis Hall, you need to know him. He's a wonderful man, and I am better for knowing him. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you at the next coffee club. Bye-bye.